and my name's Lisa Rose, and I'm a registered nurse, and I'm working on my master's in nurse education so I can work at home in my pajamas. That's my goal. I've got a 5-year goal to get that done, and somehow I'm hoping retirement and that all dovetail so I can still be able to afford food. Somewhere down there, there's some food involved. So I picked this subject, which is type 3 diabetes, for my nursing education presentation to y'all. It's going to be about 5 minutes. I've already outlined the few things I want to talk about, so don't worry, I'm not going to get too deep about anything. And Jesse and I hope this will stay up long enough to do it. I work up at Cherry Hospital as a psychiatric nurse, and I've worked as a nurse. That was my 4th career, just to let you know a little bit about me. I've been a nurse since 2011. I got hired first out of my class. I was so blessed. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, universe. And I've enjoyed it, but the most thing I've enjoyed was psychiatric nurse, and I did med-surg and the whole, everything you could do as a nurse, and then I wound up as a psych nurse, and that's been my home for the last five and a half years now. So that's what I do, and brains interest me because I see people who you might say have had a hard time having theirs work the right way. So brains are pretty interesting, and we all need them, so that's kind of what this is about. Now, type 3 diabetes has, I know a couple of you may have heard about that, and you may not have. Has anybody? Nobody heard of it? Well, I had not really myself when I started reading about it. And I started reading about it about a month ago, and then I found out I had to do this project, so I said, perfect fit. Well, type 3 diabetes is also known as brain diabetes, and the National Institute of Health and American Diabetes Association, they already have stuff on their website about it now, because it's now known as a thing. It used to be called Alzheimer's disease, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And Alzheimer's disease basically is a type of dementia that is progressive, but it also involves eventually just the death of your neurons. So the brain cells that do all your processing of any kind of impulse, input, thoughts, or anything really that your brain's going to get done for your body is done by the neurons, and it's part of the whole connective dendrites and all that stuff in your brain that let all the little thoughts go through. And Alzheimer's, over time, your neurons die, and that's really the basis they're finding of Alzheimer's, that your poor little brain cells die, and that's why you have that when you see those cutaways, because you can really only figure it out after you do an autopsy, and the brain has shrunk, and there's like not much brain mass there. Well, that's part of the classic Alzheimer's, and then there's these protein deposits on the brain, on all the neurons and stuff, and so we'll talk about that, and then that's what the tau is. So Alzheimer's, right now about 5 million adults have Alzheimer's, and they're projecting that in the next probably 10 to 15 years, it's going to be more like 16 million, and it's going to cost our healthcare system about $2 trillion, and basically they predict that will bankrupt Medicare and Medicaid. But that's just going to overwhelm the whole system just from this one little thing alone, which is hard to believe. And I kind of had to think about that because, gosh, I'm going to be at the age where I'm hoping there will be something left for me for insurance, and then again, who knows? I'll lose my mind, lose my insurance. But anyway, so I kept this brief, and this whole giant thing is here if you want to read more about it. I tried to make even these sections in here brief so you can find out a little bit about it, and then there's always the internet to go research. And I'm hoping, by the way, that this will just spur people to go do their own research, because it's a huge subject, it's too huge. And I didn't know that. So Alzheimer's is affected by insulin, and what really the classic setting for type 3 diabetes is you're somebody who maybe don't know you have high blood sugar, or you have type 2 diabetes perhaps, or you're trending towards that and you're what they call pre-diabetic. So whatever it is, the whole problem is insulin and blood sugar, and your blood sugar is not regulated, and your insulin is either not being taken into your cells properly, or the signaling of your cells, they're not able to see that the insulin is there, and so the blood sugar in your system never gets dealt with, and it just gets higher and higher. So that's the bottom line connection between Alzheimer's and insulin. With type 2 diabetes, what happens is that there is, of course, your brain neurons that get fed by glucose, and glucose is sugar of type. So your brain needs the glucose. It's its first choice of fuel, and it needs a lot of it constantly, because all your brain does is process. But the neurons are not able to receive the signaling that there's insulin out there to pick up, to take the glucose and put it where the brain needs it. So the brain starts starving. And that's pretty much it. And without the insulin being picked up by the neuron, the insulin receptors on the neuron, the sugar in the brain doesn't get to where it needs, but it also does something else to your brain in combination with a chemical in our foods and in the environment called nitrosamines. It makes this protein called a sticky protein that has purpose, a good purpose in the brain, but when it's worn out, parts of it lay around, the little parts that lay around, the misregulated insulin and this chemical in your foods called nitrosamines cause chemical changes in chemical cascades in your brain that make these sticky little old worn out pieces of protein come together and make these tangles that land onto your neurons, and they also block further insulin receptivity. And the nitrosamines actually kill your neurons. They go into your chemistry of your body and they get into your brain. They cross the blood-brain barrier and they get in and they actually kill your neurons at the base, almost like if you were to chop a Christmas tree off. So it's kind of like a multi-pronged thing that's going on. Too much sugar is in the actual brain. The insulin is not able to be picked up because the neurons have been damaged perhaps by the nitrosamines, or perhaps they have this sticky protein sticking on them. So overall, you've got kind of a three-pronged problem, and if your body blood sugar isn't dealt with, they're finding now type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, that it is really related right to your brain, as above, so below. They didn't know that people that had type 2 diabetes were susceptible to this, but now they're really seeing there's just a very strong, powerful connection. And, people cannot even know that they have high blood sugar. I wonder sometimes about myself. I don't even eat sugar. Jesse and I have this crazy pristine diet that we eat, and you would say, oh, I don't have high blood sugar, but now I'm like, well, maybe I need to start checking myself. So I would highly recommend, if you're not sure, if you ever wondered, I have belly fat, just can't lie, it's there. I like food, try to eat healthy. If you're not sure and you ever wanted to schedule a check with your doctor, they're always happy to do that for you for sure, because they love it when we come in and spend our insurance money with them. I would recommend, I finally have insurance, thank you, state of North Carolina, new job. I finally have insurance, and I'm actually going to go to a doctor I've selected. I am actually going to get myself a workup done because I've done this. So I recommend everybody else to do it. And the diet and lifestyle, they're saying, is really the way to approach this that we can do. They don't know just how to fix all these problems yet. They're not there yet with that. But diet and lifestyle, they're saying automatically, especially with diet, there's a lot of stuff from the American Diabetes Association here, just basic good food concepts, but a lot of people actually don't know how to eat healthy. We really don't as a nation. We've got so far away from the actual natural foods that our body was meant to run on. So basically it's kind of common sense, return to the basics, whole grains, fresh fruits and vegetables, lean, organic protein as much as you can afford organic, because we know it's expensive, but at Lidl now it's not as bad now, and I'm not supposed to say a company name, but I said anyway. We get organic food at Lidl, and that's the only way I can afford it, but it's there. And the problem I will mention about the nitrosamines, they're one of the chemicals in our food, they come from, this is the hard part about this because I'm not a scaremonger, but they come from the water we drink and comes from the fertilizer that's used by the farmers in this country. So they make it into our food chain, and I didn't know that either. I was like, really? Because I don't always eat organic. So something happens when our food digests in our stomach that these things get created. Also cured meats like hot dogs, anything with a nitrite in it will convert to a nitrosamine, and it really truly does kill your brain cells, and it's actually, I didn't know it, it's a carcinogenic substance. So
is that like all processed meats, are you thinking? Like things that...
It says nitrites.
Oh, so you have to check.
But even some food, I am not a chemist or a scientist, and it said even some of the foods and even the water we drink, the acidic environment in our stomach converts whatever's in those things into that, and then it goes to your brain. So I'm like, well, you could get crazy about that. But I think it's just common sense, try and find good, clean food sources. Lifestyle, they're really recommending 30 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise every day. Until I went back to school yet again with this class, I was swimming every day, so I felt like I was on target with that. I can't say I did vigorous, but I did moderate. And you can tuck it in if you really care to. It's not always fun, but you feel good after. So there's a reward. And they were saying resistance training twice a week is really good. Somehow the resistance training has some special benefit for your brain. I don't quite understand that one either, but it's there. And as far as beverages go, they really feel really water is best, which I believe that, but you know, everybody has to make their own way with the water. No more than one alcoholic beverage a night for females. I think no more than 2 a night for a male, so it's not fair, but that's what they say. I don't know why that is like that.
That is the low risk guideline.
I know.
To that.
It's not fair. Guys, but again. But anyway, it's fair. And the only other thing I can say about this is